everyone. My name is Deirdre Pfeiffer, and I am the instructor for PUP 579 Planning Methods 2. Planning Methods 2 is part of our Master of Urban and Environmental Planning Methods sequence. In Planning Methods 2, students learn basic qualitative methods that planners commonly use on the job and gain experience practicing those methods through various assignments. And these methods include things like content analysis, interviewing, observation, photographic analysis, and storytelling, including methods to incorporate diverse voices into the stories we tell in planning research. For class this year, our students took advantage of the opportunity to practice many of these different skills in a project in partnership with the town of Clarkdale. And this project is a peer community analysis. So our students absorbed information about the housing affordability challenges that Clarkdale is facing, and then looked outside of Clarkdale to see what other kinds of communities that share similar conditions with Clarkdale are doing to address their own affordability issues, with the goal eventually to draw some lessons learned, which could be helpful as Clarkdale thinks about how to respond to their affordability crisis. Thank you so much, and I hope you enjoy the student presentations today.
Hello, everyone. My name is Mobolaji Olagbaju, and my group partner is Yunpei Zhang. And for the city of Clarkdale, Arizona, we have our peer community analysis presentation on its housing affordability issues. So our peer community is the city of Ketchum, Idaho. It's located in central Idaho at a high elevation. It's adjacent to the Sun Valley, and it's known for its ski resorts, hiking, fishing, and other recreational activities. This has led to outside investments from the wealthy and celebrities. But this outside investment has adversely affected the housing market in Ketchum. So as we can see from this graph here, the population of Ketchum has increased. It's almost doubled from 1,400 to about 2,700 people. But the share of rental occupied and owner occupied homes hasn't kept up with population growth. However, the share of vacant units for seasonal recreational use, so this is like vacation homes and short-term rentals, has ballooned. It represents about 50% of the housing stock as of 2015. This has affected the market because the vacation homes and the short-term rentals are generally above market price. So this has led to across-the-board price increases for housing in Ketchum. Also, people who own rental-occupied or long-term rentals and regular houses have an economic incentive to move their houses to the short-term and vacation home markets. This has led to an increase in price from for the general housing stock. So this is kind of development that's happening in Ketchum. On this parcel stood a single-family home. It was cleared. This happened in 2008, and this is the same parcel presently today. It's at least a 3-story multi-unit building that is used for tourists. So this is how Ketchum looked. The housing in the 90s, when this development was taking off, the housing was kind of in the north area of this photo and kind of dotted across. By the early 2000s, more houses have sprung up in the center region, to the left and to the right. And then over the past decade, housing has kind of made this area of West Ketchum denser.
So another method of analysis we learned from the research is content analysis. The first one from City of Ketchum Comprehensive Plan. As you can see from the above image, in general, the City of Ketchum, there are quite a amount of household percentage are considered below medium income, and a comparably large amount of percentage in this group are very low income household. And on the side, high housing cost is also a majority issue in the City of Ketchum. And as you can see from the image below, the trends of seasonal of short-term rental housing has been increased since 1990, and the renter occupied housing stock from 1990 to 2010 has been slightly decreased, and the owner occupied stock has been pretty stable. And the second one we learned from City of Ketchum Bluebird Village program and City of Ketchum official website. The Bluebird Village program is an affordable housing multi-unit complex project approved by a Ketchum City Council, and the plan is designed to attract renters of all majority and minority groups such as gender handicraft and so on. And so what we find overall is in 2015, 59% of Ketchum's total housing stock was part-time seasonal short-term rentals or vacant homes. And as the image you can see, compared with other mountain towns, Ketchum only have 3% of housing stock, a current affordable housing issue need to deal with. And in 2017, indicate that 50% of residents are considered housing burdened. They pay more than 30% of their income on housing cost, and from 2012 to 2015, Ketchum there has a 73% decreasing in the availability of long-term rentals in Ketchum. As you can see from the picture, the T means tourist in the zoning code, and it's comparably high, which has 40% of all short-term rentals. And from here, our finding is there have two strategies to deal with. The first one, mixed land use, which is combine office and retail spaces. And the second one is workforce housing, which is provided to officers, firefighters, and so on to save their time for commute.
So we have a series of recommendations for Clarkdale based on our analysis in Ketchum. The first being that, like Idaho, Arizona is a pro-property rights state. So it's important for City Council in Clarkdale to investigate the limits of short-term rental regulations, because in Idaho, we discovered that local municipalities have limited means of regulating these short-term rentals on vacation homes.
And the second recommendations we provide is develop a workforce housing future-oriented strategic plan. The plan can outline an affordable housing plan for the working class, and the plan will explain in detail how to collect opinions, basic trends, and urban social demographic research. And last but not least, establish a seasonal vacant housing unit policy, which is based on the policy side to control the price unfairness for locals and regarding the direction of the future housing market, which is including tourism and real estate. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. That's our presentation.
Good afternoon. My name is Jennifer Corey, and I'm here with Julia Lowen. Together with the rest of our group members, Julia O'Neill and Ty Otten, we looked at Bisbee, Arizona. Specifically, we look to understand the community's concerns and ideas when it comes to affordable housing. Our goal was to formulate potential solutions which could be used to increase housing affordability in Clarkdale. Today, our presentation will focus on 4 different parts. We'll open by providing an overview of Bisbee, then move on to explain our methodologies and analysis that we use to understand our community. Finally, we'll close with 4 recommendations.
So how does Clarkdale compare to Bisbee? What do they have in common? As you know, Arizona is a state of contrasts. There are large metropolitan areas, but the vast majority of the state is comprised of open space and smaller towns. This is precisely one of the things that brings tourists to our state. In order to conduct this peer community study, we first looked at the numbers. We looked at the demographics of the city to ensure that any conclusions that we were able to make from our research on Bisbee could be relevant when it comes to presenting our solutions to Clarkdale. Ultimately, we concluded that Bisbee and Clarkdale had similar characteristics when it came to population and age. Clarkdale's median income was $15,000 higher than Bisbee, and that Bisbee had almost a quarter of its employment in the retail and entertainment industry compared to only 15% in Clarkdale. Bisbee is nearly 5 hours south of Clarkdale. It's located in the southeastern corner of Arizona, just 25 miles north of the US-Mexico border. Though they are 250 miles apart, both economies are directly or indirectly dependent on tourism. Bisbee has a population of 5,203 people, which is about 1,000 people more than Clarkdale, while Clarkdale's median age is slightly older than Bisbee's at 57 years old. Income-wise, Bisbee's median household is significantly lower than Clarkdale's, $34,000 versus $49,000. But even though Bisbee is less affluent than Clarkdale, both are still significantly less than Arizona's median income of $62,000. Both communities have a significant rental burden, and it's nearly double what we see over the full state. The two communities have issues of housing affordability and have been significantly impacted by short-term rentals due to their tourism. Short-term rentals are a great alternative to traditional vacation rentals and have been a hit for a reason. They're extremely lucrative for home and condo owners and allow for a lot of flexibility where traditional contracts would not. However, when multiplied to a scale as it has become, there has been a negative effect on communities as a whole, from large urban cities like LA to small rural tourist towns like Bisbee. The Airbnb effect essentially is when houses convert to short-term rentals at a rate faster than the housing market grows. This increase creates a higher demand for housing. This means higher housing prices as well as higher rents. This can drive a lot of residents out of areas where they have spent their whole life living. This process can disadvantage already marginalized communities, primarily low-income, elderly families, and people of color. In cities with high tourism rates or local economies that rely heavily on it, this outmigration can be detrimental to the longevity of the economic resiliency. Looking at Bisbee, these communities have a lot in common even though they are a long way apart. Both are located in high desert regions and are fabled mining towns. Bisbee saw the Queen Mine close in the mid-1970s and the Lavender Mine close in 1974. This once prosperous community struggled for a long time but has reinvented itself as the best small town in America, attracting an economy of artists and tourism. Some areas of the town are vibrant and active retail areas, while other sections, like the Lowell, remains mostly vacant, but makes for a great photo backdrop and festival area. Other major tourist attractions include the Queen Mine Tour, shopping, and lodging in the Old Bisbee area. But this tourist boom has a major downside. These are typically low-wage retail and service industry jobs that really don't pay well. Couple that with increased demands for hotels and lodging and a surge in short-term rentals, the result is a town faced with a significant shortfall in housing affordability and availability.
Using this as a backdrop, our project is about affordability. To better understand this, we implemented several different strategies to formulate our planning problem and to study it. When approaching this project, we took a three-pronged approach. We were looking to understand what housing affordability practices are being used in Bisbee. We started by first getting to understand the demographic and economic trends in Bisbee. We ultimately concluded that 55% of the renters are paying more than 30% of their income on rent, which indicates that this community is heavily burdened by the cost of housing. The percentages are similar in Clarkdale, where more than 52% of renters are similarly burdened. Another interesting find about housing stock in Bisbee and Clarkdale was that in 2010, 75% of the rentals in Bisbee cost more than $1,500 a month to rent, and 92% in Clarkdale. This quickly changed. From 2015 on, 100% of the rentals in both towns cost less than the $1,500. This indicates that there was a switch in where people with larger or nicer homes or apartments listed their properties for rent. Guess what short-term rental platform became extremely popular between 2010 and 2015? After understanding the housing affordability in Bisbee, we next looked to speak to key informants and residents about issues of housing. We did this two ways. First, by crafting a survey, and then by conducting a content analysis on social media over the last 5 years. Our second method was a key informant survey. We distribute the survey to the Cochise County Housing Director and the Bisbee City Manager. We also posted the survey online over 3 different Facebook groups in order to better understand what local residents felt on the issue. We conducted the survey in accordance with best practice methods, and we required that all participants consent to allow the responses to be used in the survey. The survey consisted of 6 questions involving housing affordability in Bisbee, plus an additional question which verified the community member's residential status. The survey link was live for 5 days and acquired 53 total community responses. The third research method employed was a content analysis of existing posts on social media. For this method, we looked at the content posted over the last 5 years on the 2 largest Bisbee area Facebook groups, Bisbee Community and People of Bisbee. To identify the relevant posts and comments, we created a search query using keywords and collected relevant comments. The posts you see here are a typical post which you would see that was ultimately included into our analysis. On the left, a poster suggests developing a peer lending community system in order to allow for the acquisition and fixing up of existing homes. On the right, you see a poster commenting about the city exploring affordable housing possibilities with nonprofit entities.
Once we completed our survey and completed our social media content analysis, we looked at our data to understand our community's issues. After completing the key informant survey, we noticed several themes and trends, which were categorized into 3 themes: housing affordability, which consisted of concerns on whether or not housing was affordable in Bisbee; short-term rental impacts, which involved perceptions of impacts that short-term rentals have had on housing affordability; and housing affordability recommendations and interventions, which addressed participants' perceptions on what is being done and what can be done to address housing affordability in Bisbee. We would like to note that under the short-term rentals theme, 50 of the 59 comments talked about short-term rentals causing rents to increase and causing availability of the rental stock to decrease, pushing rentals out of Bisbee and causing gentrification. Only 3 of the comments said that there was no impact from short-term rentals. Recommended interventions from the survey responses consisted of controlling rent, limiting the amount of short-term rentals, building low-income apartments, and increasing wages in Bisbee. Like we did for the survey, we also applied qualitative data analysis strategies for what we saw posted in social media and comment sections. This content analysis uncovered slightly different themes than the survey. The 2 themes that emerged here amongst the discussion posts were potential solutions and concerns. The comments analyzed split nearly equally between the 2 themes, meaning people equally shared concerns, but were also willing to propose solutions. So, what are Bisbee's best practices based on what we found? After completing our analysis of affordable housing conditions and solutions in Bisbee, we have come up with 4 recommendations for the city of Clarkdale. First, we recommend that Clarkdale prioritizes collaborating with nonprofit organizations to improve its existing housing stock and build new housing. Bisbee has had several successful collaborations with local nonprofits like Step Up Bisbee NACO, which is an organization of volunteers who help low-income, elderly, and disabled people fix their homes, and Habitat for Humanity, which is an organization that builds affordable housing in exchange for volunteer hours. Our second recommendation is for Clarkdale to develop policy that restricts and disincentivizes short-term rentals and increases revenue to the city to fund affordable housing options. Under current conditions, property owners are required to pay a tax for running their rental property through sites like Airbnb, but we recommend requiring a special use permit or a fee to be paid to the city so that short-term rental owners are discouraged from using their homes as short-term rentals. Right now, people find it more lucrative or more attractive to rent out their homes shorter term rather than longer term. But we want to help make sure that long-term rentals are just as attractive and lucrative too. We also propose, in conjunction with a use permit, tax incentives for homeowners who rent out their homes at affordable prices and/or to long-term renters. This will help to secure long-term affordable housing for the city. Third, we recommend that Clarkdale diversifies its economy to ensure that it's not only focused on the tourism industry. We recommend that Clarkdale invest in small businesses and businesses that will help keep Clarkdale self-sustaining so that the economy is not easily swayed by tourists and outsiders who come to spend money in seasonal bursts of times. We want jobs to be stable and well-paying enough that long-term residents of Clarkdale can afford to live and stay in the city. Lastly, we recommend that Clarkdale implements more flexible zoning and development standards to encourage innovative and alternative housing accommodations. In Bisbee, a recent text amendment now permits housing options like tiny homes and RVs subject to a special use permit. We want to encourage the city of Clarkdale to make tiny homes, RVs, and similar housing type options more viable so that housing needs can be met and be more affordable. We believe these 4 recommendations are practices that Clarkdale could adopt. By doing so, these strategies would lead to an increased housing supply, facilitate better public-private partnerships, address the short-term rentals, and work to improve the overall condition of housing units. Thank you for this opportunity to participate in this Clarkdale Peer Community Review. Clarkdale has a lot of positive aspects, and we hope our contribution is of benefit.